Hello everyone, JL Wasabi here. Today, I will be running through some of the 5 cost units of Set 14. But before we begin, I would just like to say that it would be really helpful for small content creators like myself a lot if you can help to like the video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. Thank you so much and let's get right into it. Aside from the set mechanics, portals, trade webs, and meta comps, each TFT set is usually defined by their 5 cost units. Other than some sets having units that cost more than 5 gold, they usually cost the most amount of gold to purchase, and in turn provides much higher damage or utility to your board. However, they are also the hardest to find since the odds of finding them are usually only 1% at level 7 and 3% at level 8. But when they do appear early, it will usually provide an immediate spike to your board strength. So today, we will be going through the 5 costs that are mainly backline or damage units: Aurora, Urgot, Samira, and Viego. I will briefly run through their skills first. Aurora swaps place with the leftmost unit on the bench and continues to fight from the bench. When she casts her ability, she does AoE damage to the most enemies in a line, dealing individual damage plus split damage. This does a huge amount of damage when they are left with 1 or 2 units on the enemy side, and usually one-shots them. Urgot gains attack speed for 5 seconds and locks on to the lowest percent health enemy in range. His attacks will also fire rockets in these 5 seconds. Samira dashes into enemy lines and fires bullets over 2 seconds to the enemies in a 3 hex range and deals damage that is reduced the further away they are. She is immune to crowd control in these 2 seconds and moves back to safety that can be in a new hex similar to how Zeri works. When Viego casts his ability, he targets the largest group of enemies within 2 hexes and deals AoE damage to them. First up, we have Aurora. Aurora is the late game unit when playing Anima Squad or Dynamo. When she swaps in the leftmost unit on the bench, she provides attack speed buff scaling with her own AP. Thus, it is usually preferred to swap in backline units that can make use of this buff, such as a 2-star Urgot. The swap units will not contribute to the traits, but will benefit from their own traits if it is currently active on the board. For example, if a Kobuko is swapped into a 1 bruiser board, it does not activate 2 bruiser. But if it is swapped onto a 2 bruiser board, Kobuko will benefit from both the health to all units as well as the bonus health to bruisers. Do remember that traits that are not active will not be in effect after swapping them in, such as Zack's Virus Blocks and Viego's Soul Killer. When swapping positions, Aurora swaps the unit into a current position, and when the unit dies, she returns to the board at the left side of the back row. You can use this understanding to min-max your positioning. When swapping in tank units, you can position her slightly forward or even in the front row since she usually casts quite early and will be safe from danger once she swaps out. On top of her huge damage, it is important to remember that it is a huge AoE as she targets the most enemies in a line. This means that she can effectively use items like Morellonomicon or Red Buff to apply burn and wound for healing reduction and damage over time to many enemies. When playing Vertical Anima Squad, Aurora is a secondary carry after Zaya and Aphelios and can be given utility items if needed, such as Morellonomicon or Red Buff as mentioned before. When playing with 4 Dynamo, Aurora is a main carry together with Misfortune. However, you can fully itemize her with damage items since 4 Dynamo provides more than enough mana generation for them in general. Urgot is a late game unit for Boombot and Executioner. 6 Boombot and 5 Executioner are usually locked behind finding Urgot unless you have enough emblems. When locking on to enemies in his skill, he executes enemies that are below the 15% health threshold. This is higher than the 12% for Gold Collector and Pulse Stabilizer. On top of execution, he also has a chance to give gold or item component when executing the enemies. At 2-star, the chance is very high with a 33% chance to drop item component and 50% chance to drop gold. This can be very important since having more items can swing the late game fights in your favor. He is also the preferred unit to work with Aurora since he is the highest cost unit that can make full use of the attack speed buff from Aurora's skill. When playing Vertical Boombot, Urgot is the main carry once he is upgraded. Pass your Kog'Maw items to him even if Kog'Maw is a 3-star. Since a 2-star Urgot is stronger than a 3-star 1-cost unit, and can also make use of the same items that Kog'Maw uses. When playing Vertical Executioner, Urgot is a secondary carry after Rengar, so give him utility items like Last Whisper that can help the board if needed. If you have the Executioner emblem from Orb Drops or Augments, you can activate 5 Executioner early without Urgot, but in the late game, replace Graves or Varus with Urgot instead if they are not yet 3-star. Next up, we have Samira. Samira is the late game unit when playing Amp or Street Demon. 5 Amp is locked behind finding Samira as there is no Amp emblem available. You can refer to my recent guide on Amp if you would like to know how to play the Amp comp since it got buffed in the current patch. Samira has Innate Sunder and Omnivamp when casting her skill, since each of her bullets reduce the armor of the enemies, while gaining Omnivamp during her 2-second cast. While her main utility lies in her innate armor reduction, she is typically used in a AP-focused comp since Yuumi and Brand are usually the carries in Amp and Street Demon. Thus, it is important to prioritize Hand of Justice for her survivability over Last Whisper, as the utility will be overlapped with what her skill already provides. When playing Vertical Amp, Samira is a secondary carry after Yuumi to carry any AD items that cannot be used by the comp since they are mainly AP units. However, she helps to activate Street Demon late game together with Nico and Echo. When playing the Strategist board, she is mainly a trade board for 5 Street Demon that replaces Jinx or Rengar. Given that this is also an AP comp, there is no need to prioritize her for upgrades and items if you have to choose between her and another unit. Last, we have Viego. Viego is the last late game unit for Golden Ox and Techie. 6 Golden Ox is usually locked behind finding Viego. On top of Golden Ox and Techie, Viego has a unique trait called Soul Killer, which is a very strong trait that doubles as tank and damage. This is because Viego summons the first unit he assisted in killing in the previous fight with reduced stats and 1 recommended item equipped. The unit follows the same star level as when it was killed, so if you are lucky, you may be able to summon a 3-star Rengar or even a 3-star Brand backline you managed to kill. Viego's skill is also the best out of the Techie unit to apply the damage reduction from the trait since his skill does a large 2-hex AoE slam and can hit many units at once. The skill's auto-targeting is also quite good from what I have seen so far, and will usually target the corner group with the enemy carries in the late game. He also has innate strap from his skill to reduce target MR, as well as self-healing when killing enemies due to his passive effect. When playing Vertical Golden Ox, Viego is the main carry once he is upgraded. Pass your any items such as Jeweled Gauntlets to him instead. If you have an Edge of Night, it is good for him since he goes into the backline and is susceptible to being targeted and getting one shot. When playing the Strategist board, Viego is the main carry along with Brand or Ziggs, so do itemize him as well. However, for both comps, do note that given that he has innate healing from killing enemies, it is more important to kill the targets off fast. So we do not always need to have a Hand of Justice for him, but can make items such as Giant Slayer or Guard Breaker for Viego instead. From the comps, you can see that Viego and Samira are often paired together in late game comps since they are connected by a 4-cost unit, Brand, who is a Street Demon, as well as a Techie unit. You are absolutely awesome if you have reached the end of this guide, and I hope that you have learned something from this video. Part 2 will come soon sometime next patch in case there are any further changes to Kobuko. If you find this video useful, I greatly appreciate if you can like the video and subscribe to my channel for more guides and gameplay videos. See you again. Bye bye.